Well, we are back, and thank you, Ken. That was a fantastic discussion you had with Ron Horowitz. So
I enjoyed it.
I appreciate that. You've known each other forever. It was a very insightful, meaningful conversation. Love to have two guys like you who have led very diverse and challenging and dynamic companies and very dynamic environments. Love to have a bourbon with you later and talk a little bit more in depth, maybe. That'd be great. But that was fantastic.
I'll tell you, let me just jump in a minute. The very first thing Renan and I worked on was something that was born out of a national priority. In the late 1970s, there was a defector that left Russia in a MiG aircraft, landed in Japan, okay? And of course, America threw a towel over that, covered that aircraft and analyzed it. And they discovered there were certain capabilities in that aircraft that were game changers. Would have changed air superiority over the Volga Gap had there been a conflict. And the nation launched a critical imperative, a national priority, in order to address the development of a capability within the United States that matched or at least or was better than.
There was a hubris at that time where we thought we were just so much better than them, and when we got hold of one of theirs, we were stunned.
It was shocking, and in fact, I'll tell you what it was. It was the ability of a fighter pilot. We've all watched Top Gun and
the maneuverability,
the maneuverability of the aircraft, and how you have to maneuver the aircraft in order to get the bogey, the target, in the box that's on your heads-up display. Well, what was made real in that defection and the analysis of that aircraft was that the adversary had the ability to put the bogey in the box on the visor, which means you could turn your head and take an over-the-shoulder shot. You did not have to maneuver the aircraft the way we had thought about it. Out of the box, innovative idea. And all of a sudden we realized, game changer.
We're in trouble.
Game changer. So actually, Renan and I were part of a joint venture that created the Joint Helmet Mounted Cueing System that was ultimately fielded across the entire fighter force of platforms across the United States. And what it enabled us to do was do the same thing. In order to, you could turn your head, you could look down and see through the airplane.
You could see through the bottom of the.
That's right.
It wasn't there.
As if it wasn't there, you could turn your head and take and put the target in the box and take an over the shoulder shot. And that was a kind of, when Renan talks about the passion that it takes to drive innovation when there is a national imperative.
Well, fear helps too.
Fear helps too.
Not only you got a passion, but oh my God, we're in trouble.
It's different than making office furniture or something like that. It's just a different business to be in. And he talks about the passion and how it makes your juices flow and creates innovation. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I enjoyed the conversation.
That's brilliant. Well, you guys have done some great work together. We had a great session today. We had a great session yesterday, and you always do a fantastic job of sort of giving us the high points. So were there any key elements of the day that you thought were really valuable that you'd like to share with the audience? And maybe when you guys go out to YouTube and watch these things, you're going to look at the things that Ken recommends you check out.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, there's always a couple of themes that these threads run through the day, regardless of what the topic is, regardless of who the speakers are. And to be honest, some of the themes aren't surprising. There's some of the themes we've seen at other dual use summits, other American Future Series summits. But in this case, the need for faster acquisition. We all know how fast technology is moving, the pace of play, the steepening trajectories of technology and innovation in the private sector. Look at how fast AI is moving and things like that. And so we spent some time throughout the day talking about faster acquisition within the DoD, and that has to do with policy, it has to do with practice, it also has to do with culture. Okay, the culture has to, in large degree, culture has to change. Now we talked about unmanned technologies. We talked about artificial intelligence. We talked about machine learning, and we talked about the human integration of things like AI and ML and how they need to be brought home, okay, so that an individual warfighter can leverage that and it can be integrated with humans and that kind of thing. We talked about the importance of collaboration, a collaboration between government and industry, collaboration between the commercial sector and the defense sector, a collaboration against among different companies that can bring technologies together to create a greater capability than each one or either one could do by themselves. So we talked about that. And we talked about hiring practices and recruiting. And that's really important because, the young men and women, we work to foster STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and we work to make that important to our young men and women, our children that are going through elementary school and high school, to get them focused and attentive and excited about technology and developing innovative technology. And so we talked about then moving that toward hiring practices and helping them when they come out of engineering school to focus on the national agenda, to focus on the national problems to be solved.
That's your best place to apply these things.
Yeah, and focus on the problem where the stakes are the highest, okay? Do something meaningful with your life. Do something that really contributes in terms of applying your talent in that regard. And then we talked about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is going to be a tougher and tougher challenge as we apply AI, as we look at quantum computing, as we look at the pace at which we can process and things. The old ways of cyber and protecting transmission security, communication security, those kinds of things are the problem's harder than it's ever been.
We keep seeing hacks recently, right?
Yeah, that's right. I thought you had a very interesting first session with Jason Rathje of the Office of Strategic Capital. And it was interesting to me to learn what they do, why they do it, and how they do it. I didn't realize that they had so many stakeholders. I didn't realize they had so much experience in the whole innovation ecosystem. Had you known Jason?
I've known Jason for quite some time, and what I like the fact is they're not just giving money away and hoping something good happens with it. They're making loans, and when you make a loan, you expect to get paid back.
You expect a return on that investment, don't you?
Right. So if I give you a loan, I'm going to evaluate you and have a different set of criteria to whether or not we think you can actually produce something, and whether it's going to turn into something that the commercial world and the DoD can use, and we get a return on that. So as a taxpayer, I kind of like that.
I like that too. And if you're a parent who has a son or daughter that wears a uniform, you might like that even
The
more.
fact that more money is being applied, right,
Yeah,
et cetera,
yeah.
and more different kinds of capital being applied, and it's lowering the cost of capital. So yeah, I loved all that.
So we moved to a section then with Army Future Command. Of course, here we are in Austin, Texas, a home of Army Futures Command. But Tony Kukolo, and I had a conversation with Tony outside, independent of that, and really interesting. But we talked with Tony, and he was explaining the role with respect to national security innovation, the National Security Innovation Council, and how it's a business nonprofit organization, what its focus was, how they're trying to accelerate problem solving, how they're trying to accelerate applying technology to national security, and really address the problems that are most meaningful in that innovation context. And of course, Miles Brown was here also. Miles Brown talked about how AFC is focusing on materials procurement and moving ahead with innovative weapons, innovative technologies, and future war readiness. We all know that the best way to deter war is be in a position of strength.
Yeah,
be in a position of strength. So I thought,
I was 5'8" and I was in a bunch of fist fights. You're 6'2". I don't think you've been in many fist fights as I've been, because people aren't stupid.
well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I said, okay, I got to pick between Ken and I'm going to pick between Dave. I'm going to pick Dave.
But I think President Eisenhower spoke to this a long time ago, and he talked about the fact that if you want to deter war, you got to be a tough cookie. You got to be somebody that nobody wants to fight.
Amen.
And then that keeps the peace. I alluded to this a few minutes ago, but the topic of gaming, cyber, and dual use technology, I thought that was a really interesting session among the 3 or 4, what I would refer to as younger people that were here today. But they're really experts in the gaming technologies, how fast it's moving, and how the technologies, the mathematical algorithms that apply to gaming, the speed of which it processes, and all of that applies so indirectly but directly, meaningfully to the cyber challenge. Okay, and I thought that was really interesting. Now, one of those individuals has an interesting story, right? Yeah, I think you shared.
Bashar Amin's story is amazing.
Yeah,
I'll tell that real quick. So, a special operator in the Middle East, not loved by Al Qaeda and the Taliban, and they doxed him. They doxed his family, came after his family, tried to kill his family here in America, and when his identity was released, et cetera, or discovered, that impassioned him to protect his family. So he's a self-taught cybersecurity expert, and he now leads that practice on the federal side for Microsoft. So that's a great story.
Hey, it brings it home of how personal it can really be. It can really be. So it is today National Women's Day.
Mhm.
And so this next panel, which was led by our own Nicole Robinson, Comtech's Chief Growth Officer, she kicked off the panel by talking about the role SATCOM and data security has in a hybrid satellite ecosystem involving both low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit, and geostationary satellites, and in fact, bringing on board the convergence of space and terrestrial in that context as well. And she talked about how that's driving technology innovation, how that's driving us to think differently, and how that's driving companies like Comtech to create more comprehensive solutions for our customers than just a modem or just an amplifier or just an antenna, because it involves data analytics, it involves data processing, it involves so many more things than the ground infrastructure provider even cared about or thought about 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. And to do it with a team of Michelle and Pam and Janie that were all women, okay? I thought that was a fascinating, and it grabbed my attention. And I thought that was a really good session.
I was particularly happy with the fact that over 50% of the people who participated in our event over the past 2 days are either women or people of color. So diversity of thought, all of these things matter. And we do strive to represent the breadth of America, whether it's gender, whether it's thought, whether it's level, senior executives, technical types. So I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and then I think, we moved to Sarah Hess, and she led a panel on the future of defense, public-private partnerships, and how, these disparate technologies need to be brought together to create comprehensive solutions that can really change the game on the battlefield and in other venues in a national defense context. And I thought that was a really terrific panel. I would turn back to both of these prior to and look at that on YouTube when we post those on the main page, as well as the gaming and cyber one, which I thought was fantastic. Then you led a roundtable on innovation. And a common topic was kind of adversarial threats, how they're evolving more rapidly, the acquisition process, how we can try to address deployment of solutions that can deal with those rapidly evolving threats in a rapid and a timely way. You have any more thoughts on that? You enjoy that?
No, I enjoyed that one. And the sum up was 5 years later, it is easier to innovate and work with the DoD than it was. And that was the goal. And we're getting there. It's not easy, but it's getting better, and we're being faster, and we're being more productive, and it's working. So that's heartening.
Yeah, that's good. So anyway, I thought it was a fantastic day. Again, kind of the nightcap was my conversation with Renan, which I really did enjoy. We spent some time on that earlier in our conversation, so I won't hit that again. But David, I'll tell you what, from the perspective of being Comtech's chairman, president, CEO, I can tell you it's a thrill for us to sponsor this event yet again. It's a thrill to see this gathering of thought leaders in a non-political environment where people can speak freely, people can throw out controversial ideas, people can really take on and confront the challenges of our day, both today and the emerging challenges that are coming forward. To do it on National Women's Day is exciting because I'll tell you, I'm a huge believer in diversity and bringing diversity into the problem-solving community where we're trying to overcome real challenges. We're trying to move faster. We're trying to sort out difficult options and find the right way ahead. To bring in diversity of thought, diversity of background, diversity of decision calculus, people that have come from different backgrounds, come from different cultures, been trained at different schools and universities, to be able to bring them together so that we can attack the problem with this diversity of thought.
You get better answers.
Oh, you get far better answers
Okay.
than this groupthink of we all came from the same place with the same thing. And so I was really excited to see the heavier population, the stronger contribution made by women in this venue.
Well said. And because of your thought leadership, I'm going to let people know that July 25th, we'll be in DC with our Space Innovation Summit. General Hyten, General Raymond, General Saltzman, we're honoring D.T. Thompson, but we're honoring my good friend Ken Peterman with our Lifetime Achievement Award for Business Excellence, which in large part has to do with thought leadership. And so I hope you all join us in July. Look for that, our Space Innovation Summit, and look for all our events. And we couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Well, I'm humbled. Thank you, David.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you.
God bless.